Hey, welcome back to part 2. Today we're going to talk about your first aid kit. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that are basic to a first aid kit. When you go to my website, spiritwars.net, under Preparing Physically, there will be a long list of everything that you can put into a first aid kit. But there's certain things that I want to talk about your first aid kit. So the first thing you're going to need is a digital thermometer. You will also need scissors and tweezers. Jeez. You're going to need duct tape and a splint, which would be a long piece of wood, I'd say about 1 foot long and about 2.5, 3 inches wide. I love duct tape. You can do a million things with duct tape. I suggest you get out a dozen rolls of duct tape to prepare for the coming collapse. You can do everything from mend a disposable diaper to give yourself a facelift. I mean, it's just endless what you can do with duct tape, so that's one of my favorite things. So the duct tape and the wood would be to make a splint, let's say for your arm or your leg. An ice pack. I suggest you get at least 4 or 5 small ice packs, because in the situation where somebody, let's say, was out in the sun too long, they're getting sunstroke, you can put it under their arms, behind their neck, in their groin area, and this will really bring down their temperature very quickly. An N95 mask. In the event of an avian flu or some sort of pandemic, you are not going to want to buy a surgical mask. Why? Because surgical masks are for you to protect the other person. It is not to protect you. A doctor will wear a mask in the OR in case he would sneeze or cough on a patient. It is not to protect him. An N95 mask has the density to keep a flu virus from you inhaling it. So that is the purpose of it. You would wear it around your face very snugly, and you pull the cord on the sides evenly. And like, I would have no problem wearing one because I've got fat cheeks, but somebody who was gaunt, they may want to tape the sides of it, or certainly if somebody had a beard, they'd have to shave their beard. There's no two ways around it. You cannot wear that mask with a beard. Okay, non-latex gloves. These are, I believe, the purple gloves that you see EMS wearing. You might say, well, Mary, I don't have an allergy to latex. True, but the person you may be touching might have an allergic reaction, and you might end up making them go into anaphylactic shock or have a bad rash. So just go ahead and get the non-latex gloves. A suture kit. Go on YouTube and see how to suture a wound. Buy butterfly bandages. They are not as good as a suture, but they will work if the wound is very small, a couple inches. If you put enough of these butterfly bandages over it and apply a dressing and keep it very firmly planted dressing so it doesn't wobble around and loosen up the bandage. Dollar Tree. I love Dollar Tree because they have everything there, from gauze rolls to 4x4s, which are sterile, to bandages. I think they do have butterflies. They have antibiotic ointment, Caladryl, hydrocortisone cream. You can just go really stock up very inexpensively at Dollar Tree. The next thing we're going to talk about is diabetics. You may run into this situation, or there may be a diabetic in your family. Always keep some packages of sugar or hard candy. But what I really like to use, it's a glucose gel. It comes in a little tube, and all you do is pull off the tab and squirt it in the person's mouth. It's very easy for them to swallow. Now, if someone is unconscious and you know that they've perhaps taken too much insulin and their blood sugar is very low, and you would turn them to the side. In the side they're laying on, you would put the glucose gel in their mouth, and it will actually get absorbed by their cheek. fairly quickly and bring their blood sugar up. Okay, hypothermia. There's several things. You don't want to carry around a great big blanket in your first aid kit. So I suggest you buy a Mylar blanket. They're about $4 and they are about the size of a deck of cards. They will, if you put it on properly and very snugly, they will keep in approximately 80% of that person's body heat. You might also want to think about buying a mini tent. Emergency Essentials sells one for $3.99. And you can lay someone in there and it will shade them, it'll keep them from rain. Some other things that you'll need are matches to sterilize things. You want to have some sterile water in your kit to flush out a wound. You need to get betadine. Now, a lot of times people use things like alcohol or hydrogen peroxide, but they are not going to be as effective as using betadine. And this is what's used in surgery, and it kills 99.99% of bacteria. So go ahead and buy betadine instead. Keep a bottle about that size, and you can flush out a wound with it. It will not burn them. It will not cause the tissue to dry as alcohol or hydrogen peroxide would. Other things you could use are hand sanitizer, hand wipes, and make sure you've got yourself a hand crank flashlight. You're working on a wound, the sun is going down, you really need to see what you're doing, so make sure you got a flashlight in your kit. Handkerchiefs, or what I would use are, I'd take an old bed sheet and cut it up in strips and make enough strips, I'd say at least 8 of them. You can have short ones, long ones, to secure a bandage. The next thing is CPR. There's no reason in the world why you cannot learn CPR. It is so easy to do. It's a no-brainer. There's only about 5 steps of assessment if someone needs CPR, and CPR is very, very easy to do, and it will save someone's life. So be kind. Don't be selfish. Go learn how to do CPR. Learn how to do the Heimlich maneuver. So easy. I've done it to myself. I almost died, and I used Heimlich on myself, and it is, here I am. I'm proof. It works. Okay, the next thing is your first aid book. Okay, don't go get a first aid book that looks like the family Bible. I want you to get something that's compact and really easy, basic stuff. You're not looking for a medical, encyclopedia. You just want something that's the common man can read and understand. So go invest 20 bucks and get a good first aid book and keep it in your kit. But before you put it in your kit, read it. Read it. It could be one of those bathroom books, you pick up and read a page at a time. I'm telling you, once you've read this, and it's so easy to, most of the stuff is just very basic common sense stuff. But when you're in an emergency and you say to Susie Q, go look up snake bites, and she's reading it, and you go, yeah, it's coming back to me now. And it'll really help if you've already read the book. When you have knowledge, you are going to feel more in control of the situation, and you're going to be more confident, and that is going to be so important to reassure that patient. The last thing is find somebody who's a medical professional that you can go to in time of economic collapse. Go to that person beforehand. Let's say they live very close to you and say, I know you're a nurse or you're a PA or whatever, and I'm going to trade with you. I'm going to give you a dozen eggs. I've got chickens. I'm going to give you a dozen eggs every week. If I could just count on you, that if I have to call you in the middle of the night about my baby, that you'll come to my house and help me out the best that you can. Because if there's no ambulance and you can't get out on the street because there's rioting or there's martial law or whatever it is, at least you know a medical professional that can be there for you and help you and your family. Thank you. We're getting ready for part 3.